So, Segalin, so you've been interning with the Hisham Mubarak Law Center Oral History Project, and if you could say your full name and where you're from and what you're studying.
My name is Ségolène Constance Lapère. I am studying Middle Eastern Studies and Political Science at McGill University. And I'll be finished this year doing a Master's in Refugee and Forced Migration Studies at Oxford next year. I was born in Canada, raised in the United States, but from French and Belgian origin. So I think that captures
right.
where I'm from.
Multinational roots.
Yes, citizen of the global village.
There you go.
Yeah.
So what have you found interesting about the internship and about the interviews that you transcribed?
Well, I transcribed 2 interviews and edited a 3rd one, but what I found was really interesting was that these interviews humanized the revolution for me. So it's enough to read in the media and understand what's going on, but to understand the emotions and the actual appeal of what's going on, the interviews is what helps you do that. And, for example, the wife of Hisham Mubarak, I mean, she laughs a lot in her interview, but you feel the pain and the emotion in her voice, when she's talking about like the death of her husband or organizing a protest or her relationship with her son and the relationship that she wishes her husband had with her son. And also some pretty interesting definitions. I mean, Ahmed Saif al-Islam, the co-founder of the Hisham Mubarak Law Center, was talking about the political individual in Egypt, and he described it as anybody who just follows up what happened, I think were his exact words. And that's just extraordinary because a lot of people watch the news in our societies, in our countries, but we wouldn't characterize them as political individuals. So I thought that was really deep because it applies to everyone. So it makes everybody responsible and a contributor in civil justice. So those are the things that I liked. But also in Selma Ragal Nagish, her interview was interesting because she was talking about her limitations. So she was talking about she was talking about how in her experiences working with the Hisham Mubarak Law Center, she would seek out opportunities that would more fit with her personality. So she wouldn't be in the forefront because she was more shy. Yeah. But she still, given this limitation, she still tried to do more. She still tried to engage in the conflict in other ways, translating or, calming people down, staying overnight at the law center rather than, protesting outright. It gives the conflict a different dimension, which is what I really enjoyed, and it's a nuance that we don't often see in the literature. So that's right.
Great. And how did this internship and listening to these interviews affect your impressions of the revolution?
Well, from a Western point of view, but from an educator, I would say, about the Middle East, I still saw the revolution as pretty bloody, relatively unorganized, and in a way hopeless. It's not that I didn't think that it would be able to yield a positive product, but originally I just thought it was another Syria, so I didn't really see as much as a distinction.
This was before you started?
This was before I took it, because my interest lies mainly in Tunisia and in Lebanon or Israel-Palestine. And Egypt, is definitely not as from now that I have done this internship, I see the organization of civil society in Egypt, and I see the opportunities that people are taking up and grasping in order to make sure that their society doesn't suffer from this. So I think it's really changed my perspective on how to take the domestic context more seriously and to really go into the unexplored areas, so women's rights, military trials for civilians, even Mallory's gay rights presentation. So it's giving me a more well-rounded approach to this revolution, and it's also given me hope that even though this period is sort of troubling or the positive outcome may not come now, I still think that they're on the right path, and they definitely show promise for sustainable government in Egypt.
Yeah. And how does this internship fit within your life plan? Do you have a plan?
I do have a plan. I want to be an international human rights and a refugee lawyer. Yeah. And so I really do want to serve the citizens of my global village through legal advocacy. And I mean, watching the documentary The Square, or even just hearing about all these human rights violations in Egypt, whether it's people not getting their fair trials, or unjust punishment, or repression and cruelty and no accountability. I mean, that really struck a chord, because I have friends in countries, like in Tunisia, for example, where they did fight for what they wanted and they weren't treated that way. And not only does that make me angry, but it really does ignite a fire in me to go and help these people. I mean, to me, they're like brothers and sisters, because I identify with their culture. And so it does really give me passion to raise my voice for the people who aren't in the situation to do so, or who are afraid to do it themselves. And I really hope that I get to meet some of the people in my interviews too.
That would be neat.
Yeah. I mean, most of them are lawyers, so it's in my plan.
And you are headed to the Middle East, right?
I am. So I'm going to Tunisia in a couple of days. So that will be just more R&R, but I'll catch up with a few friends, and I hopefully continue my research on feminism and Salafism in the Tunisian state. And then at the end of this summer as well, I'll be going to Israel and Palestine to teach French in the West Bank. So it's something that I haven't done before. I'm really excited to go there and learn more about the situation for Palestinians, but as well as for Israeli youth. So.
And you have plans already for the fall, I understand?
I do. I'll be attending Oxford and completing MSc in Refugee Forced Migration Studies. So I'm really, really excited to do this. I'm waiting on funding. Hopefully that comes through. But I'm really excited, because this program is really what I want to do. I mean, there's the international law component, there's the history, anthropology, and it's in London, in Oxford. And then I'll be going to law school at LSC. So hopefully the next 4 years will set me up to be. And
I'm sorry, LSC for people who aren't in the human
London
rights field?
School of Economics and Political Science.
And you want to be a human rights lawyer?
Yes, I do. I do. And I want to work alongside them as well, because they're so inspirational. It's really a multidisciplinary field. I mean, to be a human rights lawyer, to me, is not only representing people in the courtroom, but it's really understanding. So sympathy and empathy are really big components of that job. And I really look forward to that. I really do.
In 20 years, what do you think you're going to remember about this internship?
I'm going to remember how long it took me to transcribe Ahmed Sayyid Islam's interview. I mean,
how long?
It took me, roughly 28 hours, because I was using the VLC and manually clicking back, and it took a lot of time. The other interviews were much better, because I used the transcription pedal.
Right. And there's Adon, who's one of the coordinators of the Loyola College for Diversity and Sustainability. Bye-bye. Okay, well, anything else you'd like to say, Sigolin?
Well, if there's any prospective interns out there, or even just people listening, and who are confused about their career paths, which is usually what students in my position do. After you graduate university, especially in arts, there's this huge pressure to enter the workforce. And so I would say this internship, it'll help you put things